When we talk about surrendering to God, there's something profound in the idea of letting go of the need to control. It's a concept that challenges everything we're taught, isn't it? From a very young age, we're told to plan, to organize, to take charge of our lives. We are conditioned to believe that our success, our happiness, and our future all depend on the effort we put in and the control we exert. But, my friends, there's a paradox in all of this, and that paradox is this: true freedom, true peace, and often the greatest blessings come when we let go of control and place our trust in something greater than ourselves. Now, I know this isn't always easy. Our minds, full of worries and fears, cry out for control, for certainty, for a clear path forward. But think for a moment about the world around us. The sun rises each day without our permission. The seasons change without our intervention. And yet we somehow believe that our grasp on things is what keeps everything in place. But what if, just for a moment, we could release that grip, that fear of what might happen next, and surrender to something larger than ourselves? What if, by letting go, we actually invite God to step in and work in ways we couldn't possibly imagine? There's a wisdom in surrender, a deeper understanding that transcends logic and reason. It's like standing on the edge of a cliff, looking out over an expansive view and knowing deep down that you don't need to know the exact path forward. The beauty is in the letting go, the trust that the universe or God has a way of guiding you where you need to go. You don't need to know all the answers. You don't need to hold everything tightly in your hands. All you need to do is release and allow what will come to come. When we speak of surrendering to God, it's not about inaction, not about sitting back and doing nothing. It's about trusting the process. It's about knowing that our efforts, our planning, our hard work, they are part of the journey, but they're not the whole story. When we trust God, we let go of the need to control every outcome, every minute detail. We place our faith in the belief that even if things don't unfold exactly as we expected, they are unfolding as they are meant to. Surrender, then, is not passive. It's an active choice to release, to trust, and to allow God's greater wisdom to guide us. I think there is something deeply spiritual in recognizing that we don't have to bear the weight of the world alone. So often we feel burdened by our responsibilities, our decisions, our desires. We want to make the right choices, to fix every problem, to solve every issue. But when we carry that weight, we carry it with tension, with fear, with anxiety. And all of that resistance creates a disconnect from the natural flow of life, the flow that God intends for us. When we surrender, we remove that tension. We allow ourselves to be present, to breathe, and to let the universe and God move through us. In surrender, there's a beautiful shift that happens. We begin to understand that there's a force at work far greater than our individual efforts. God's hands are always at work behind the scenes, working things out for us even when we can't see it. When we stop trying to force things, when we stop pushing and controlling and striving, we make space for God to move in ways that are beyond our understanding. And here's the thing. It's often in those moments when we've completely let go that God's surprises start to unfold. Things start to align in ways that we couldn't have possibly predicted. Doors open that we didn't even know were there. Opportunities arise that we never thought possible. But it all begins with when we're able to surrender, we create room for God to surprise us, to guide us, and to bless us in ways that we might never have imagined on our own. Think of it as a trust fall into the arms of something greater. You don't know exactly what will happen next, but you trust that there is someone, something, there to catch you. That, my friends, is the kind of faith that moves mountains, that creates transformation in our lives. And it all starts when we stop trying to do it all ourselves and let God take the lead. It's a beautiful paradox, isn't it? The more we let go, the more we make space for something miraculous to happen. And while we can't always understand the timing, the method, or the path, We can trust that what we need will come at the right time. God's timing is never wrong, and when we allow ourselves to trust in that divine timing, we open ourselves up to surprises beyond our imagination. So when you're feeling lost, overwhelmed, or burdened by life, remember this. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means giving in to a higher power that's already working on your behalf. It means trusting in the process, knowing that what lies ahead is far greater than anything you could have planned for yourself. Let go, my friends. Leave it in God's hands. You'll be surprised by what happens next. And when that surprise comes, when the blessings unfold in ways you never imagined, you'll see that it was all worth the wait. Surrendering to God, truly letting go, often brings with it a deep sense of peace, but it also brings with it the kind of fear we don't like to admit we experience. We fear the unknown, the uncertainty of what lies beyond our control. It's easy to say we trust God, but when it comes down to it, there's always that part of us that holds on tightly to our plans, our desires, and the way we think things should unfold. But let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how your best moments in life came not from holding on, but from releasing? That's the paradox we must embrace. The more we hold on, the more we restrict ourselves. But when we let go, we open ourselves up to an entirely different possibility. Now, this surrender isn't about waiting for some magical moment when everything falls into place. It's not about expecting a grand sign or divine intervention. It's the quiet, almost imperceptible understanding that we are not alone in our struggles. In fact, it's in those moments of deepest uncertainty that we begin to understand that God is there, working behind the scenes, orchestrating things in a way that we couldn't have planned for ourselves. This is the beauty of surrender. It's not about expecting God to do things the way we want, but about trusting that God knows better even when the path ahead seems unclear. Think of the times when you've tried to control everything, when you've exhausted yourself trying to figure things out. Isn't there a certain exhaustion that comes with that? And yet, when we release the need to control and simply surrender, we find that things often fall into place in ways we didn't expect. Maybe not in the way we thought we wanted, but in a way that is often far more beautiful, more aligned with our true purpose. Remember the move. Take you from the background of your mind and body to the front range of your imagination, which provides you with wisdom and memory of the past. It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. No matter how much you force it, it just doesn't work. But when you step back and allow the natural flow of things, the right opportunities present themselves. This is the power of letting go. It's not weakness. It's not about giving up. It's about trusting that there is something larger at play. Life doesn't always unfold in a straight line. The things you want, the dreams you hold, they don't always come when you expect them to. Sometimes they come in the most unexpected moments, in ways that make sense only when you look back and see the bigger picture. And that, my friends, is the art of surrendering. You might think that surrender means passivity, that if you let go, nothing will happen and you'll be left with nothing. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Surrender isn't the absence of action. It's the recognition that some things are beyond your control. It's the realization that your efforts can only go so far. And sometimes the best thing you can do is stop trying to force the outcome. In that moment, you make space for God to work. You open the door for divine timing to unfold, even when you can't yet see how it will happen. And so in those moments when you feel exhausted, when you feel as though you've tried everything and nothing seems to work, take a deep breath and surrender. Let go of your attachment to the outcome. Release your grasp on what you think should be, and trust that whatever happens next will be what is needed. This is where real magic happens. God doesn't need you to have all the answers. What God needs is for you to trust, to take that step back and to allow divine grace to move in your life. Surrender is an act of faith, and it's in that faith that we begin to see God's hand moving in ways that go beyond our comprehension. When we let go, we give ourselves permission to be surprised. We give God permission to do what only God can do. It's as if we've been standing in the way of our own blessings all along, and the moment we step aside and let go, we open ourselves up to receive something better than we could have ever imagined. And then So when you find yourself caught in the cycle of trying to figure everything out, trying to make everything happen on your own, pause for a moment. Surrender. Trust that God knows the way. Trust that even in the quiet moments of doubt, there is a higher power at work. The world may not make sense right now, but it is unfolding exactly as it should. Trust that what you need will come at the right time, in the right way, and that it will be more beautiful than anything you could have planned. This, my friends, is the power of surrender, to let go, to trust, and to open yourself to the surprises that await when you stop forcing and start flowing with the rhythm of life. Surrender isn't just about waiting for things to happen, it's about allowing the divine to shape the journey. And when you do, when you let go of your control and give it all to God, you will be amazed at what follows. Remember, surrender is not the end. It's the beginning of something far greater than anything you could have planned. Let go, and you will be surprised by what God has in store for you. It is easy to think that surrendering means giving up, that when you let go of your own desires, you've lost control of the situation altogether. But that, my friends, is where we often go wrong. Surrendering is not about losing, it's about gaining. It's about giving up your personal need to control every outcome, every moment, and instead trusting that the path ahead is greater than the one you could have designed for yourself. The world, the universe, or God, however you wish to call it, has a way of working things out for us, even when we don't see how or why it's happening. When we try to control everything, we often end up resisting what is. We become like a river dammed up by rocks, struggling to hold back the flow of life. There's a force that is far more powerful than any of our personal plans, desires, or fears. It's the flow of life itself. And when we surrender, we remove those rocks. We open ourselves up to the current, allowing ourselves to be carried where we are meant to go. You see, surrender is not the end of the road. It's the beginning of a journey that you could never have planned on your own. This process is so deeply connected to our human nature, we want things to be certain. We want to have control, to know what happens next. But life doesn't work like that. It never has, it never will. The beauty of life, of the divine, lies in its unpredictability, in the mystery of what's to come. When you surrender, you free yourself from the weight of expectation. You free yourself from the burden of needing to know how it all unfolds, and in doing so you make space for something greater than you could ever imagine. There's freedom in surrender. Freedom to be open to the unexpected, to allow life to surprise you in ways that only God can. Now, I understand that it can be uncomfortable. I understand that when you are faced with the unknown, the fear of the uncertain can grip you. But here's the paradox. By clinging to your plans, by holding on to the way you think things should be, you create more suffering. The tension of wanting to control your life is like trying to hold on to sand. It slips through your fingers no matter how tightly you squeeze. But when you let go, when you release the need to control, you find that the very thing you were afraid of, the very thing you resisted, was what you needed to let go of all along. You may wonder, how can I surrender when the outcome feels so important? The truth is, the outcome isn't what matters. The process, the journey, is where life unfolds its deepest wisdom. If you keep trying to control the results, you will miss the lessons life is trying to teach you right now. Surrendering doesn't mean you stop trying or that you stop moving forward. It means you stop forcing, you stop struggling against the natural rhythm of life. You stop fighting the current, and instead you let it carry. I'm sure you've experienced times when things just didn't seem to work out no matter how hard you tried. You pushed and pushed and yet nothing fell into place. And in those moments there was a decision to make. Do you keep fighting or do you let go? When you let go, when you surrender your need to force things into being, that's when the door opens. It may not be the door you expected, but it's always the one you needed, and you've no time to. And here's something to consider. Sometimes, when you think things aren't working out the way you planned, it's actually God's way of redirecting you towards something better. Life surprises are not random, they are divine interventions. So often, we look at a closed door and assume it's a dead end. But what if that door had to close in order for the right one to open? What if the very thing you thought was a setback was actually a setup for something even greater? Surrendering means allowing yourself to trust in the divine timing of the universe. It means trusting that everything is unfolding exactly as it's meant to. When you let go of your need to control, you align yourself with the flow of life, and that flow is always heading toward your highest good. You may not understand how or why it's happening, but that's where the trust comes in. You trust that the universe, God, or whatever force you believe in, knows what it's doing. And here's something profound. When you let go, when you stop pushing against the current, you begin to see life more clearly. You start to notice the small miracles, the things that would have otherwise passed you by, the moments of grace, the little surprises that are meant to guide you. You stop looking for signs because you begin to see them in everything. The way the sunlight dances on the water, the way a stranger smiles at you, the way the wind whispers through the trees. When you surrender, you start to see God's presence in every detail of life, and you start to understand that you are always being guided, always being held. So when you find yourself feeling lost, when you feel like the world is working against you, remember, surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means trusting in something greater than yourself. Trust that the world is unfolding as it should. Trust that God has your back. And trust that in surrendering you are making space for the miracles to happen. There is nothing more powerful than that. Let go and let life surprise you in ways you never thought possible. And when it does, you will look back and realize that surrender was never about giving in. It was about giving yourself the freedom to receive. There's a common misconception that in order to surrender, you must give up all hope, all desire, all effort. But that's not true. Surrender is not about turning off your ambition or abandoning your dreams. It's not about passively waiting for things to happen. No, it's about understanding the balance between action and surrender, knowing when to push forward and when to step back, trusting that you are exactly where you need to be, even when things seem uncertain. Think about it. Life is a dance between holding on and letting go, between doing and being. We are, by nature, beings of action. We want to control the course of our lives, to make things happen. We set goals, work hard, and strive for success. But we can only do so much. We cannot force life into being. We cannot bend the universe to our will, no matter how much effort we put in. There are things beyond our control, forces at work that we cannot see, that we cannot understand. And that's where surrender becomes a profound act of trust. It's not about throwing up your hands in defeat. It's about recognizing that you can't control everything, and that's okay. In fact, it's more than okay. It's liberating. When you stop trying to control the outcome of every situation, you free yourself from the weight of expectation. You no longer carry the burden of determining how things should unfold. You simply allow things to unfold as they will. But here's the thing. This is not a call to passivity. This isn't about sitting back and doing nothing. It's about learning to take action when it's needed and then stepping back when it's not. It's about finding the moments where your action can align with the flow of life, and when it's time to let go and trust that the universe or God will take care of the rest. So often we try to rush things. We want things to happen on our timeline according to our plan. We want to see results immediately, and when we don't, we get frustrated, anxious, maybe even desperate. But the universe operates on its own timeline, The divine has its own rhythm, its own pace. When you try to force things before their time, you are working against the flow of life. But when you surrender, when you let go of the need to control the outcome, you become attuned to that rhythm. You begin to work with the flow, not against. This doesn't mean you stop taking action. It means you stop obsessing over the results. It means you stop getting bogged down in fear or impatience. It means you trust that you are always being guided, always being supported. And when you trust in that guidance, you will find that things begin to align in a way that is far more perfect than you could have ever imagined. Think about the times in your life when you were most anxious or most attached to a particular outcome. Chances are those were the times when you struggled the most, when things felt like they were slipping through your fingers. But then something amazing happened. You let go. Maybe you surrendered out of frustration, maybe out of exhaustion, or maybe just because you couldn't take it anymore. And in that moment, when you were given what you needed, not what you thought you wanted, that's the paradox of surrender. When you stop holding on so tightly to what you think should happen, the things you truly need begin to show up. The world starts to work for you instead of you constantly working against it. And that's the surprise. When you let go, the universe takes care of you in ways you couldn't have planned, ways that go beyond your understanding, but there's a deeper layer to surrender. It's not just about letting go of control in the big moments. It's about letting go of your attachment to how life should look in every single moment. We get caught up in the story we tell ourselves, what success looks like, what happiness looks like, what love looks like, and we believe we must follow that script. But life doesn't work like that. It's not a script to be followed, it's an experience to be lived. The scripts need to be lived to that, to unroll the needle to rest upon the script in the first place. And when we surrender, we stop trying to force that experience into a predetermined box. When we let go of our expectations, we open ourselves up to the beauty of the unknown. We begin to see the magic that exists in the present moment. We begin to notice things that we otherwise would have missed. The small blessings, the unexpected encounters, the subtle shifts in the world around us. Surrender brings us back to the present, where life is always happening, where it's only when we let go of the story in our heads that we can fully embrace the story being written in front of us. This is the essence of surrender, being fully present with life, not fighting against it, not demanding that it conform to our desires. It's about trusting that everything as it is part of a much greater plan. And when we stop resisting, when we stop trying to make life fit our narrow view, when we surrender, we also surrender our judgment. We let go of the need to label our experiences as good or bad, right or wrong. We stop measuring our worth by the external markers of success and start to understand that we are enough, just as we are. We stop looking for approval and begin to trust in the divine approval that has always been there, silent. So what happens when you truly surrender? You experience peace, you experience freedom, you experience grace, you experience the miracle of life unfolding in ways that you could never have planned. And in that, you realize that surrender is not an act of giving up. It's an act of letting life be what it's meant to be. It's trusting that everything is happening exactly as it should, and that you are always exactly where you need to be. So surrender. Let go. Allow the universe to surprise you, and trust that what lies ahead is far more wonderful than anything you could have ever imagined. You see, surrendering to God is not a one-time act. It is not a decision made and then forgotten. It is an ongoing practice, a continuous journey, like learning to swim in an ocean where the waves are unpredictable and the currents strong. At first you might flounder, unsure of how to navigate the deep waters. You try to stay afloat, grasping at the edges, trying to control the waves. But as you surrender, you begin to float more effortlessly, learning that the ocean doesn't need to be controlled. It just needs to be trusted. That's what it means to trust in God's plan, to let go of the need to control everything. It's about releasing the desire for certainty and security. We are so accustomed to needing to know the outcome, to having a plan, to controlling the narrative. But life doesn't operate that way. God doesn't operate that way. Instead, life is fluid, unpredictable, and vast, like the ocean. When we trust in God's guidance, we stop needing to know every step before we take it. We stop fearing the unknown and start embracing it as part of the grand mystery of... Think about the times when you have felt anxious, when everything seemed out of your control. Perhaps you felt overwhelmed by the pressure of making the right choice, or the fear of failure, or even the sadness of feeling lost. When we experience these emotions, it's often because we're trying to control something that is beyond our control. We want certainty in a world that is inherently uncertain. But when we stop fighting that uncertainty, when we stop resisting it, we start to realize that the very unknown we fear is where the magic lies. Surrendering isn't about passively waiting for things to fall into place. It's not about ignoring our responsibilities or desires, nor is it about being complacent. No, it's about recognizing that there is a rhythm to life that goes beyond our understanding, a flow to existence that we cannot always see, but that we can always trust. Surrender means aligning ourselves with this rhythm, moving with the current, instead of trying to paddle against it. There is a deep freedom in surrender, a freedom that comes when we stop seeing ourselves as separate from the world around us. When we believe that we must control everything, we isolate ourselves, believing that our success, our happiness, and our future are entirely in our hands. We take the weight of the world upon ourselves and carry it alone. But surrender tells us something different. It tells us that we don't have to carry this weight by ourselves. We are not separate. We are part of something much greater, and in that greater whole, we can trust that things will unfold as they should, even if we don't understand how or why. Now, you might be wondering, how do I surrender in practical terms? Well, it begins with letting go of your attachment to the outcome. If you're attached to a particular result, you are holding on to an idea of how things should unfold. This attachment limits your vision and prevents you from seeing the bigger picture. Surrender is about releasing this attachment and allowing life to unfold in its own way, knowing that it will lead you exactly where you need to go. It's about being fully present in each moment, letting go of the what-ifs and maybes that cloud your mind. It's about doing what you can in the present moment without worrying about what comes next. It's trusting that even if things don't look the way you thought they would, they are still unfolding in a way that is for your highest good. One of the most challenging aspects of surrender is the trust that is required. It's easy to say, let go, trust in the divine, but it's much harder to actually do it. Our minds are wired to plan, to prepare, to control. But the divine works in mysterious ways. Sometimes we are led to exactly what we need, but not in the way we imagine. Sometimes the detours, the setbacks, and the delays are actually part of the greater plan, guiding us to something better than we could have ever planned ourselves. When you surrender to God, you begin to trust that the setbacks aren't punishments or signs of failure. They are just part of the journey. They are not obstacles, but opportunities for growth. Each challenge you face, each moment of uncertainty, is an invitation to deepen your trust, to let go even more, and to open your heart to the possibility that there is something greater than your current understanding. And when you begin to embrace this trust, you'll notice a shift. There will be moments when the fog of uncertainty begins to clear, and you will see that the path before you is not one that you forced, but one that gently unfolded. You'll realize that when you surrendered, you weren't giving up. You were opening up. You were opening to a greater flow, to a deeper understanding, to a richer life. There is an old saying, let go and let God. It's simple yet profound. To surrender is to release the grip we have on the steering wheel of life, to trust that the journey will unfold in its own way. The more we surrender, the more we open ourselves up to unexpected blessings. We begin to see how the pieces of our lives fit together in ways we could never have planned, how the dots connect in a beautiful, intricate design. It's not about doing nothing, it's about doing everything with a sense of trust, faith, and acceptance. It's about letting go of the need to control the results and being present with what is. And as you surrender, you'll find that you are held, that you are loved, and that everything you need is already on its way. So remember, when the pressure feels overwhelming and the path unclear, surrender. Trust in the greater plan. Allow yourself to flow with life, and you'll be amazed at the surprises that await you on the other side. You are never alone in this journey. God is with you, guiding you every step of the way. There is something profound that happens when we truly surrender. We stop seeing ourselves as isolated beings struggling against the tide of life, and instead begin to see ourselves as part of the flow, part of a divine current that carries us exactly where we need to go, even if we don't understand the destination just yet. This surrender is not a defeat. It's not an act of resignation. On the contrary, it's an act of liberation. It's about letting go of the tight grip we have on our own expectations and allowing the divine to surprise us in ways we could never have anticipated. Think about it. How often do we spend our lives focused on what we want, on what we think we need to be happy or successful? We create plans, we set goals, we chase outcomes, and all the while we hold this vision of how things must unfold. But here's the thing, no matter how tightly we hold on to those plans, life will always have a way of unfolding in its own unique manner. Things don't always go according to the script we've written. And yet, when we finally release that script and surrender to the flow, we find that what emerges is often far more beautiful, more fulfilling, more aligned with who we truly are than anything we could have conjured up on our own. When we surrender, we let go of the idea that we have to control everything. It's a kind of relief, really, when we realize we don't have to carry the weight of our own expectations anymore. It's as if we've been clinging to a rock in a rushing river, trying to stay in control, only to discover that if we simply let go and float, the current will carry us with much less effort and far more grace. This process of surrendering doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, it takes trust, and it takes a willingness to step into the unknown. We are conditioned to believe that we must know the outcome before we act, that we must predict every twist and turn, and that we must always be in control. But the truth is, the unknown holds all the potential. It's in that space of uncertainty that the most miraculous things can happen. When we step into the unknown, we are inviting possibility. We are opening the door to things we never imagined were possible. We live in a world that constantly urges us to act, to do, to make things happen. But the most powerful force in the universe is not action. It's stillness. In stillness, in surrender, we allow God to work through us, to guide us, to show us the way. We no longer need to be the ones forcing things to happen. Instead, we trust that the universe, or whatever higher power you believe in, is aligning things perfectly for us. And when we surrender, we begin to see the subtle signs, the synchronicities, the nudges that guide us along the way. We start to understand that we're not alone in this process, that we are part of a much larger design, one that has always been at work, even when we couldn't see it. Surrender doesn't mean doing nothing. It doesn't mean passivity. On the contrary, when we surrender, we are fully engaged in life. We continue to act, to pursue our goals, to make decisions, but with an open heart and a sense of trust that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. We act without attachment to the results, knowing that the outcome will be exactly what it needs to be, whether it aligns with our personal desires or not. And that's where the magic lies. The act of surrender is not about giving up on life or our dreams. It's not about abandoning hope or letting go of our desires. It's about giving up the need to control the timeline. It's about releasing the need to have everything figured out in advance. It's about allowing ourselves to be surprised by the unfolding of life. In fact, when we surrender, we are actually aligning ourselves with our deepest desires, because we are no longer restricting the way they can manifest. Instead of holding on to a rigid vision of how things should be, we allow life to surprise us with something even better. And here's the beautiful paradox. The more we surrender, the more we become attuned to our true selves, to our deepest purpose. We stop trying to force our way forward and instead begin to align with the rhythm of life. It's like a dance. When we stop trying to lead and allow the music to carry us, we move more gracefully, with more flow, more ease, and more joy. And the path ahead becomes clearer, the choices become more obvious, and we begin to feel as if the universe is supporting us at every turn. But let's not kid ourselves. It's not always easy. It's easy to say surrender, but it's much harder to actually do it, especially when life presents us with challenges, when things aren't going the way we planned, or when we face moments of pain and struggle. It's in those moments that we're tempted to resist, to fight, to try to force things into being. But this is precisely when surrender is most powerful. It's in these times of struggle that we can choose to let go of the need to control, to let go of the fear, and to trust that there is something greater at work, something that knows what we need better than we do. As we learn to surrender, we begin to realize that God's plan for us is far more beautiful than anything we could have imagined. It's not a plan of perfection, but a plan of growth, transformation, and learning. Every experience, every challenge, every surprise is part of this divine plan, and the more we surrender, the more we allow ourselves to be led by the divine, the more we find ourselves in places of beauty, joy, and peace that we could have never reached on our own. So, let go. Surrender to the flow of life. Trust that everything is happening exactly as it should, even if you can't see the bigger picture yet. Life has a way of surprising us when we least expect it. And when we surrender, we open ourselves to those surprises. We open ourselves to a life that is far greater than anything we could have imagined. And when that moment comes, when you look back and see the intricate design of it all, you'll know that you were never alone. You were always guided, always supported, always loved. In the end, surrender is the key to unlocking everything you've ever desired. Let go and allow God to surprise you.